Hello everyone, today is going to be epic because me and Lewi Pilgrim are going to show you 10 different ways to be faster on your mountain bike. Let's get into it. Tip number one, this is going to be pedaling mid-air, and when you land, keep pedaling. This is going to keep your speed up. So we've got a perfect jump here. It's quite a low, long racer. So instead of just jumping it normally and carrying on, we're going to take off, get pedaling before we've even landed, and then keep that going down the landing. So that was pedaling in the air. It makes you go way quicker because obviously you're straight on the gas when you land. And if you aren't faster because of it, you've actually just learnt yourself how to ET, which is a cool freestyle trick. So either way, you're either going to look cool or be faster. So you might as well get learning that to increase your speeds. Let's move on to tip number two.
So tip number two is all about cornering. We've got a nice flat corner here, and this one's more specifically based on flat corners like this because there's no banked up berms or anything. And basically I'm just going to show you two ways that you could do this corner, one of which is going to be way more efficient for getting around it with way more speed. That there was the sort of tight to tight option. As you can see, the entrance of this corner is actually really wide, so cutting in tight like that doesn't really make sense because you've got to do a lot of skidding here to get in this corner. Now I'm going to show you coming in from wide, then cutting in tight to show you that you're going to have a lot more exit speed. So as you could see there, from taking wide to tight, I had to do a lot less braking. I could come round the corner way faster. And generally speaking, you'll find that if you're doing a race, they'll probably have taped it so that you could take either of the options. And if they have done that, always take wide to tight option. It works a lot better. You won't do that horrible skidding into the corner and trying to catch up your speed with pedaling. Let's move on to number three.
Number three, this is a very, very obvious one, but you should always stand up. And I know it sounds silly because a lot of you know exactly what to do, but I've seen a lot of people riding on technical trails and they're sat down. As this video is aimed at more racing and being fast, I don't want to see any of you sat on the bike. So I'm going to do the same option now, stood up, hurtle down there, and clearly and obviously it's going to be way better and faster. So this tip was super simple. Obviously most of you are going to know it, but if you're a beginner, get stood up and you will be way faster. Let's move on to number four.
This is tip number four. It's the speed tucks, where you get into this sort of position when you're bombing down a hill. You'll see downhill racers doing it at the end of their race through the finish line, and a place where you guys might be doing this is on a nice long steep section of trail, especially when you can't keep up with your stiffest gear. It looks like this. You'll go so quick, so you'll be way more aerodynamic and like small little ball on the bike.
Number five, this is race jumping. So you'll be faced with jumps on a trail and if you're in a race. And if you want to make the most speed out of the trail, the best thing to do is not to jump the jump how it kicks you. The best thing to do is to keep as low as possible. That means you're going to get your wheels on the ground faster, which means you're going to be rolling quicker and you'll be able to keep your speed up. We've got a nice little section here. There's a little step down jump into a big table, and first off I'm going to show you on this step down that I'm going to keep it really low. First I'll jump it how the jump is kicking me, then I'm going to jump it in the race style. So let's get it. As you saw there, because I hit the jump fast, it kicked me kind of high. I landed super far down the landing, which obviously isn't as fast. Now I'm going to let the bike come up into me, push through it, keep the wheels as low as possible, and you'll see the difference in speed right now. As you saw there, the race option is really keeping my speed up. I'm scrubbing all the air time away on that big takeoff. Now I'm going to hit it how I'd really like to hit it myself, with the big air, and you'll see that getting a lot of air time is much slower than pushing through and racing a jump. Racing jumps, like I've just shown you now, isn't exactly for beginners. If you don't know how to do jumps yet, I made a video showing you the basics of how to start jumping. It's up here on the top of the screen. But for you that are more advanced, I hope this little demonstration has showed you how keeping low over jumps can keep your speed. Let's move on to the next tip.
Tip number 6 is all about looking ahead down the trail that you're on. A lot of beginners tend to be looking just in front of their front wheel in fear of what their wheel's about to hit. That's actually one of the worst things you can do when you're riding a trail, because you might miss that scary route that you were just looking at and then go off a 10-foot drop and die. So yeah, don't do that. Right, obviously you're not going to be looking at the trail like that. You're not going to be able to see all the little obstacles that are coming up very soon. Gonna cause some crashes, quite painful, so keep them eyes forwards. Let's move on to number 7.
Number 7, this is pretty technical. This is pre-jumping. This can't be used everywhere, but when you find a place to use it, it is going to increase your speed a lot. So I've found here a very technical section that mostly you'd come along fast and jump down. So I'm going to show you this as a normal drop, and then I'm going to show you the pre-jump version. Let's. As you saw with that one then, I took off at the very edge there, landed pretty far down. If I was to go any faster, I'd actually land to flat. So with the pre-jump version I'm about to show you now, I can come in with a lot more speed. I can take off further back. I might still end up in the same zone, but I started my takeoff from here, which means I've obviously got more speed because I've travelled maybe a metre further. So let's have a look at that. That was a perfect example of how that is faster, because I took off about here. I ended up landing in the same spot, so that means I travelled 1 metre more in the air and still landed down there. So I was obviously travelling at a faster speed. If I was to have gone that fast without the pre-jump, I'd have landed on the flat and probably exploded. So pre-jumping is great. It can be used in a load of different places. You can experiment with that, maybe on before a roller. There's different spots, or before like you drop into a big hill. It's a pretty technical maneuver, but once you've worked it out, it can really increase your speeds by miles. Let's move on to the next one.
Number 8 is braking before you get in a corner, setting your speed so you can go around it nice and flowy. The reason you're not going to want to be braking within the corner is because if we think about braking even just on flat ground, when you pull your brakes, your weight is coming forwards because you're coming to a stop. The momentum's got to go somewhere and it goes forwards. If you do that when you're coming into a turn, what that's going to do is make that weight come off the line that you want the weight to be in. It can send you over the berm. Your front wheel might wash out if you lock it up too much. Your back wheel may overtake you and you'll end up doing a 180 and slamming down at the end of the berm. So what you're going to want to do is approach your berm, brake, then let off, go around the berm. You can brake after the berm if you need to, but just do your best to not brake within it at all, and you'll be getting around them corners nice and sick.
Number 9, this is pumping for speed. We're on the section where Lewi likes to look down at the floor again, and this is 3 really small jumps in a row. If you were to jump these and land where you should do, you're not going to be going that fast. If you jump them and you are going fast, you're going to over clear all of these. But if you pump and manual and keep your wheels on the ground as you ride over them, you're going to be able to hit them a lot faster. So I'm going to show you now going super fast, without pumping and keeping low and keeping the wheels on the ground, and you'll see that I'll land really flat and lose all of my speed through this section. Oh! Whoa. As you saw there, I went fast, cleared all the jumps way too far, ended up basically landing on that next takeoff, which is obviously going to be horrible in a race run, slowing you down. And if you're just on the trail with your friends, if your friend rides how I'm about to show you, you'll be miles behind. This is the pumping and low version over this section. As you see there, I tried to keep my wheels on the ground as much as possible. I may have got a tiny bit of air, but I was able to pump, land all of the rollers if I did get air right down low, keeping my wheels on the ground over this one. That means you're going to have more control, more speed, and that pumping motion is also going to keep your momentum going as well. Also, things to look out for on the trail is little rollers, little parts that you can gain a bit more momentum off rather than just rolling straight down the hill. That was number 9. Let's move on to the final tip.
So this final tip's something I'm taking straight from my actual races, so I know it works really well. And what it is the pedaling, braking downshift when you're going into a corner that's really tight and you know you need to power out of it. So we've got this setup here, got a little bit of a hill and then a little turn there and back up the top. And generally it's used when you're in a really high gear pedaling into something. You know you've got to slow down a lot. When you're braking, you're going to want to pedal, but because you're braking, you're obviously not going to go anywhere with pedaling. Whilst you're pedaling, click down your shifter load. It will downshift you into a nice light gear so that once you've come out the corner, you can put the power down and get back out onto the trail way quicker than if you're in the stiffest gear you were just in. I'll show you the line now without using my method. As you can see there, when I went to change the gears up, there was a horrible banging sound. It's a good way to snap your chain, and I had no power because I was in such a stiff gear to even get up the hill. It took ages compared to this technique here. So as you can see with that comparison, it was a lot faster when I did my downshifting before I got to the turn. And the main point of it is to remember to do this pedaling whilst you're downshifting. Otherwise, when you go to pedal out the corner, it's just going to be a big, clunky, horrible mess and you're probably going to blow your chain up. So that was the pedaling, braking downshift.
They were our 10 tips on how to be faster on a mountain bike. There's obviously loads of different videos about this, so I hope that our video can help you even just a little bit, and if it didn't help, I hope it was still fun to watch. That is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That'd be awesome if you leave some comments, and it'd be sick if you subscribe. See you in the next one. To the sky.